Hello Gators, this is Mr. McDole here and welcome to my kitchen. Tonight we're going to be making some vegan chicken wings from scratch. So, a lot of people ask me in class, what does it mean to be vegan, what does it mean to be vegetarian? So personally I'm vegetarian, which means I don't eat any meat or fish, but I do eat eggs and dairy. Although I do try to eat vegan when I can. Vegan means that you don't eat any dairy or eggs, so you don't eat any milk, cheese, ice cream, at least ones that are ice cream that's made with milk, because now they have like vegan ice cream and all this fancy stuff. So anyways, the main ingredient of tonight's meal is going to be wheat gluten. This is going to be the base for our chicken wings. So unfortunately, if you are gluten intolerant or have celiacs, you will not be able to eat this recipe. This is pure concentrated gluten, so this is what people with gluten intolerance can't eat. It is gluten. It is helpful for vegans or vegetarians though, because it is a protein source. It's almost, you can almost think of it as like a protein powder in a way, but one that you like make food out of. So yeah. The other thing that you might not have heard of before that we're going to be using tonight is nutritional yeast. This is another common vegan vegetarian ingredient. It is fortified with special nutrients and vitamins that you can only get from eating meat or eggs. So if somebody doesn't eat any meat or eggs, they can eat this to get the stuff they're missing. We're also going to be using the other ingredient I'm going to point out here out of the ones we're going to use tonight is oat milk. So any kind of milk you have in the fridge is fine. If you want to keep it vegan, you can use soy milk or almond milk or whatever you like, but you could also just use regular milk if it doesn't matter to you. So, all that being said, let's get started. All of these ingredients will also be in the video below. I'll make sure we get a link to the recipe, which we got off of YouTube from a YouTuber named Beef4Real. Okay, so here we go. So first we're going to get started by making our chicken nugget stuff, which is called, so when we make this gluten into food, it's called Seitan, typically. So we are going to need 3 tablespoons of our nutritional yeast. We're going to need a few different spices. The recipe calls for poultry seasoning, which I don't have, so I'm going to approximate that with some rosemary. And some Italian seasoning. We're going to need some garlic powder. And a little bit of Cajun seasoning if you've got it. And some salt and pepper. All that's going to help our stuff taste nice and yummy. So then we've got some wet ingredients I'm going to add to this. We need 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. Three-fourths cup of vegetable broth. 2 tablespoons of our milk that I mentioned earlier. Oh, that looks like about 2 tablespoons right there. I'm not much of a measurer. I'm a eyeballer when it comes to cooking. But sometimes it comes out great. Sometimes I'm like, maybe I should have measured. So I'll let you decide what type of cook you will be. And so now we are ready for the star of the show, as I was saying earlier, our gluten. So this is the fun part. You're going to see how this is going to make a bit of a thing here. I won't ruin the surprise until... Oh! Crap. I realized I was supposed to mix all that together before I did this part. I got a little excited, you know? I was excited for the fun part. But I think we're going to be okay here. So, but if you try this yourself, you're supposed to whisk all of the spices and stuff together before you add the gluten, which I'm doing now. But I suppose we'll just mix it all at once here. Okay, so that we needed 1.5 cups. And now I'm going to get in there with my hands and start mixing all of this together. Okay, so as you mix it, you're going to see that our seitan, our gluten, is going to start to form a dough. If you've ever baked bread, or if someone in your family has ever baked bread, it will seem very familiar because this is the same stuff in bread that makes that stretchy kind of texture to your dough. If you ever watch baking shows, Great British Bake Off, they're always talking about the gluten and getting the dough nice and stretchy. So this is quite literally a dough, except it's a chicken nugget dough, if you will. So there. It looks all kind of like alien-y and cool. And you want to get it nice and homogeneous, all mixed together evenly. You know, throw in some science words in there. I'll stretch. And I think, to me, that looks pretty good. So now we are ready to cook this. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our seitan dough we just made and we're going to cook it in vegetable broth. We're going to boil it in vegetable broth. So you want to get your vegetable broth on the stove heating up, and as it's heating up, getting ready to go, we're going to add some more stuff to give it some flavor. So you're going to add a diced onion. Plop, plop, plop. And a couple of cloves of diced garlic. A little bit more soy sauce. Some more, the recipe calls for poultry seasoning. All I got is Italian seasoning. And some pepper. The recipe also calls for Worcestershire sauce, which we never have, so we always leave it out. We're fine without it. Worcestershire sauce. You know what I mean. I don't know how to say it. And this is all really important because a big part of vegan cooking is you learn how to really spice your food and get a lot of flavors in there. Because you may be thinking, how are we going to make this stuff taste like chicken nuggets? And the answer is a lot of spices. So I'm going to go ahead and let this heat up and be back in a minute to cook up our seitan. Okay, so once your vegetable broth with all your spices is nice and boiling, got all those flavors mixing and mingling, you're going to take your seitan dough, your wheat gluten, and you're going to peel off little pieces. Now, the size you do is up to you for what kind of chicken you want to make. Last time I did this, we made the chicken sandwiches like the person whose recipe it is recommends. This time I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. So we're going to do chicken nuggets. And I'm going to actually go quite small. I'm going to kind of experiment with the size a bit, and we can see how it comes out. Because they do expand, so you should expect them to get bigger than what you put in. So I'm going to go little kind of chunks here, and just drop them in. It's kind of fun. It feels like you're playing with Play-Doh or alien brains or something. And you're going to go ahead and do that for the whole lot. Like I said, if you want to do like for like the piece, the size of, if you wanted a piece for like a sandwich size, you'd want to do about the size of your palm. I'm going maybe about half the size of my palm, or even a little bit smaller for this recipe. And so I'm going to go ahead and get all of these in here and be right back. Okay, so I'm getting my last ones in here. I realized the first few I showed you were probably a little small. I'm not sure. It's kind of an experiment doing them smaller this time. So, like I said, go with what floats your boat. But I decided as I went to make them a little bit larger. And once you have them all in there, you're going to turn the heat down. So, just to show you, that's kind of the size I'm going for. Something around there, That one's maybe a little small. We'll see. We'll find out, right? It's always a experiment. Do you get my joke, everybody? I don't know. Did you get my joke? She says she didn't. My girlfriend's filming me. Her name's Azon. She's very nice. She's helping me behind the scenes over here. Okay, so these are all in there. I recommend you take a spoon and make sure none of them stick to the bottom. So I'm just kind of stirring and making sure none of them are stuck to the bottom. Because I know a lot of times when you're making dumplings or things like that, at the beginning is I think the beginning is kind of a dangerous time. Because right at the beginning of when they go in there, if they touch the bottom, it's really hot. It can trap them down there. Anyways, so I'm going to turn this down to medium-low heat, and we're going to leave that for 20 minutes. While that's going, we're going to do two things. First, I've got some vegetable oil ready for frying. So once these are done, we're going to bread them and then fry them, deep fry them. So I'm going to turn this on and get it heated up. We're going to want to heat that to around 360, 370 degrees. I've got a thermometer to check, but if you don't, about like medium-high heat, somewhere around there. So you want to get that heating up because we're going to want it nice and hot for deep frying. And then we're also going to go and make our dry paste for coating for deep frying. Okay, so I'm going to go get ready for that. Okay, so here I have assembled what is going to be our coating for our seitan when it's done. Here we have flour, salt, pepper, a little bit of brown sugar, a little bit of cayenne pepper, onion and garlic powder, paprika, and baking powder. So once again, we've got all these spices to help it taste like what you know and love. I think as far as vegan, vegetarian stuff goes, when you eat like fried chicken, a lot of what you're tasting is that outside frying part. So getting this right really helps it be tasty. The baking powder, I also want to mention, a quick little chemistry lesson here. So this has sodium bicarbonate in it, which is baking soda. And this is really important because this is what helps it get that crispy, like crunchy kind of texture. So when this cooks, it's going to decompose into CO2 gas. And that gas is going to create little air pockets. So those kind of like bubbly parts on the outside of the fried chicken, this is going to help us get that. So really recommend not skipping this one. And I'm just going to combine this all together in preparation for when our wings are done cooking. Okay, so now I have our cooked chicken pieces here. Let them go for about 20 minutes. I just seemed like they were done sooner. Actually, really just 15. When they came to the top, I'm pretty sure that means they're done. So I'm using spoons here because they're hot and I don't feel like waiting for them to cool off because I am hungry. So what we're going to do here is we're going to dip these in the flour mixture I showed you before and get them nice and coated. Then we're also going to dip them in this wet mixture which I have prepared. This is milk, hot sauce, and Dijon mustard. So we had spicy brown mustard we had in there. You can also use regular mustard just for some flavor. And, you know, your milk hot sauce ratio, the more hot sauce you use, the spicier it'll be, obviously, so that's kind of up to you. So we're going to do into the dry, into the wet. And then we're going to go for a second coat back into the dry. Get it nice and coated. And then that is going to be ready for deep frying. Boop. So I'm going to get those ready. I still have my oven over there heating up on the stove, so I'll get these all nice and coated up. Once again, we do dry, wet, dry, and then we're going to fry in a minute here. Be right back with you. Ready? Okay, so now we've got a few coated, got enough for our first batch of frying here. For the oil, I've got it turned up almost all the way to high on my stove, and it took a while, and now we are at about 360 degrees on the thermometer when I checked. So if you don't have a thermometer, that's fine. You know, just do your best, have it. Let it sit on near high heat for a while. And we're just going to fry them for a couple minutes on each side until they're nice and crispy. Okay, so I'm adding my last few in here. This is my last batch. It took me about 3 batches to get all in. And I just really wanted to stress some important safety concerns if you try this at home. So deep frying can be very dangerous, as this is really, 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 really hot. Once again, I measured it. It's at practically 400 degrees. So, very hot. So when you're adding things in, you want to get it close to the surface, like you just saw me do. You don't want to drop it from way up high. Like I don't want to take my plate and throw it in there. This is what's going to happen. It's going to splash everywhere, right? It's going to splash on you, and it can burn you. So you want to get it real close to the surface. Use a fork or a spoon, or even some tongs, something with more reach to it. And a couple other things. This is going to stay hot for a while. So once you're done, just leave it there. Turn off the stove. Don't forget to turn the stove off. Make sure you turn off the stove and leave it for like 30 minutes before you do anything with it. Disposal-wise, you can't just dump this down the sink. You can save it if it's not too dirty and reuse it for something else later. You could save it in a jar. It's recommended if you've got like your garden outside, the ground outside, you can go pour oil into like the dirt. You can't like put it down the sink. It'll ruin your drain. And it's liquid, so it's kind of hard to put in the trash. Yeah. I'm just trying to think if there's any other safety concerns. So keep all that in mind if you do try this at home. So this is our last batch. We're getting this fried up. We've got some done over here, looking nice and crispy. That's my first batch. My second batch, I got a little bit crispier, left them in a little bit longer. And we were thinking to ourselves, as we got halfway through this recipe, why make chicken nuggets when we can make chicken wings? So we're going to go coat these in some sauces, get some wings going, and we'll be right back with you. Okay, so here we are. A little while later, we've got some that I coated in some Frank's buffalo sauce, tossed them up nice. Some that I coated in some Slows mustard barbecue sauce, so kind of like a honey mustard almost. And then I left some plain, which we're going to eat with, whatever else we're feeling, some ranch, some other honey mustard. This is our homemade ketchup, which we made with tomatoes from our garden last year, which we're very proud of, having had a few jars of that still left over. So got all sorts of different stuff. And with that, why don't we cut into one and try one? Let's see what these bad boys look like. I'll take one of these plain ones here. No, I'll take I want a buffalo sauce one. And I think the great thing about this recipe is, you can do whatever you want with these that you would do with regular old chicken. Like, you can make chicken sandwiches, chicken nuggets, chicken wings. That's what it looks like on the inside. delicious. It came out great. I think, you know, the nice thing is the nice crispy outside texture, which is very similar to what you might get. Does it taste exactly like chicken? No, of course it's not going to, but it tastes delicious. Thank you for watching, and let me know if you feel like you were going to try making these on your own. I'd love to hear how it goes. Have a great night.